The Tom Woods Show, episode 904.
Prepare to set fire to the index card of allowable opinion. Your daily dose of liberty education starts here. The Tom Woods Show.
If your homeschool program is making you crazy and running you ragged, don't wait till next term to fix it. Check out the self-taught Ron Paul curriculum right now. Plus, get $160 worth of free bonuses when you join through my link, ronpaulhomeschool.com. Hey everybody, Tom Woods here. I hope you enjoyed the past couple of episodes with Michael Malice. Michael was in town for a couple of days, and I thought it would be a crime not to have him on for a couple of in-person episodes, and in particular, episode 902, just an epic episode. That introduction of me where he pretty much systematically got every single thing wrong was just such a thing of beauty I could not contain myself. Anyway, a lot of fun. If you missed 902, you're missing out on a real treat. 903, not too shabby either. But in that case, sorry, I will eventually get to today's episode, but in that case, I'm dealing with a lot of questions that have been asked by others, so it's a little bit choppier necessarily than if I were just asking him questions in a sort of stream of consciousness. Anyway, let's talk about today. We're talking to Austin Seckel of the Republican Liberty Caucus, which we're going to learn more about in a minute, but by and large is aimed at trying to get a libertarian perspective injected into the Republican Party and to support people who favor that. Austin himself is the endorsement committee chair for the RLC, and he's precinct committee man for the Palm Beach County GOP. He's former communications director for U.S. term limits and the owner of Bergen & Company, a consulting firm powered by Libertarians. Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Tom. It's a pleasure.
All right, tell me about the Republican Liberty Caucus. I want to know exactly when it got started.
So the RLC was founded in 1991 in Florida, actually. I think you've had this gentleman on the show before, Tom Walls. He's one of the founders, and Phil Blumel. They're actually a part of our local chapter here in South Florida now. But it was started essentially to distinguish themselves from conservatives. And not that I think being conservative is wrong or bad, but in the Republican Party, particularly in their position, which is after the Reagan years, they found that conservatives were constantly the ones that seemed to be not living up to their campaign promises, to say the least. So they wanted to distinguish themselves, and not because libertarianism sounded cool. These were libertarians before the RLC was founded, but the goal was to get libertarians elected to office. They had seen the shortcomings of the Libertarian Party, for better or for worse, and wanted to try a different route. And though I think our level of success isn't as high as the NRCC per se, of electing candidates, but we've certainly helped get some good guys elected at the federal level and with state chapters and local chapters in respect to local level and state level.
Give me an example of such a person.
As a 527 nonprofit, we endorse candidates. We also advocate against some, but we've endorsed Rand Paul. Ron Paul is an endorsed member, Justin Amash, Thomas Massey, Walter Jones. Some are, obviously predate this election cycle, like Ron Paul. We have a pretty slim margin of candidates, and particularly being the endorsement committee chair, I would never advocate anyone to blindly vote for any Republican on the ballot. We stick to our principles, and those are the few people who have fit the ticket. We have a questionnaire and compact we give to all candidates to fill out, and then we vote on it. Those are some of the candidates we've helped get elected at the federal level.
Now, whether for strategic reasons or otherwise, does the Republican Liberty Caucus automatically endorse the GOP nominee for president?
No, not. I actually don't think, since its founding, the RLC has ever endorsed a Republican in the general election for president. Also to say, we've never, as far as I understand, gave a non-endorsement, because I had pondered this in regards to Donald Trump just coming out, not advocating against him, but specifically coming out saying we do not support him at all as the non-endorsement. So we've endorsed in the primaries before Ron Paul. This past cycle, we endorsed Rand Paul. But again, since our founding in 91, I don't think we've ever endorsed the Republican in the general election for president.
So what kind of relationship, therefore, if any, do you guys have with the Republican National Committee?
Well, to clarify a little more about the RLC and to reiterate again, we are a nonprofit. We're not forcibly affiliated with the Republican Party. We're not an outfit of the Republican Party, but we do have the right to use the elephant and the name Republican. But we're not officially connected with them. In regards to the RNC, though, I mean, one of our board members. The past RNC member is Saul Newsness, but I think we definitely need to press forward in regards to influencing the RNC. I know many members have been delegates before to a convention, especially in 2012, but we're not particularly trying to advocate for or against the RNC, though their tactics are usually brute and incorrect in my opinion. But it's more of our goal to support and endorse candidates.
Okay, so it's not a question of we better do this or that because this will help curry favor with the Republican National Committee. That's just not even a factor at all.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I mean, being active in the Republican Party is definitely encouraged. And also to note, to be an RLC member, you don't have to be a registered Republican. You do if you'd like to be a board member at the state level or at the national level. But even Libertarian Party members can be members of the RLC.
Okay, and it looks, I wouldn't quite say vice versa, but let's just say I know somebody who's fairly prominent with the RLC was seen walking around the convention of the Libertarian Party last year. He was very much supporting two former GOP governors there.
Yes. I was actually at the convention as well, and I think I may have seen this the same gentleman as well.
Okay, all right. He's not a super duper big fan of mine, but that doesn't have to be other people's litmus test. All right, I'm curious about a few things here. I mean,
yeah,
surely somebody's going to say to you, "Look, the Republicans. Sometimes they talk a good game. Sometimes they don't even do that. But sometimes they talk a good game, but." In practice, they just so consistently wind up to be so disappointing that it seems like you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah,
so
we definitely are.
Okay, so before I even get into the Libertarian Party, is there any time when you just watch Republicans and you say, "My gosh, what in the world am I even doing here?"
Yeah, well, I would like to revisit the last question you asked prior to about the LP, but in answer to this, all the time. I mean, please put in perspective, registering as a Republican and being a member does not necessarily, sure, but by other means, or people would say this, guilty by association, but I certainly have never sacrificed my principles in being part of this. To put into more perspective, I live in West Palm Beach. I live less than 3 miles from Mar-a-Lago, and I'm a precinct committee man here in the local chapter or the local party here in Palm Beach County. Either you support Trump, blindly. There's not even questions asked. You're silent if you don't support him, and if you still don't like Trump, you've left the party at this point, leaving myself and the very few libertarians in the local party here to a very, very small minority. And I think that most people don't get to witness this kind of near idolatry, in my opinion, that some Republicans have of the Trump administration, just being where I am. I mean, some of these people, they say, "Oh, he's never broken a promise yet, and he's following through on everything. We're just so grateful for him." And people get up and grandstand at these party meetings for 10 minutes or so, just going on these instances and how they met Trump. And he's so wonderful. And it seems like idolatry to me. And I ask myself that many times, what am I doing here? And it's not, it doesn't make me happy at times to witness these events. But I certainly think that it's my duty to kind of chronicle these events and make people aware of what it really is like in some degree, ground zero here. Near Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, but it can be difficult But I think another important thing to consider is that if I'm not, attesting to what they're doing in the GOP, who else will? There doesn't seem to be many libertarians up to the task. So resiliency is a key.
I'll just say for the record that I personally have no party affiliation, and I've spoken at Libertarian Party events, and I've spoken at some GOP events. And my view always is, if somebody invites me to speak to their audience, why would I not do it? I mean, within reason, why would I not do it? Why would I not want to go talk to these people, which I've done, and sometimes I've been on C-SPAN when I've done it. So I've never regretted anything like that. So I'm not in any particular corner on this myself, but I've got to ask you about the Libertarian Party, because
yeah, please.
I think it's a reasonable question to say, if you want to have a party that reflects what you believe in, go ahead and create one. Or if there is one that already exists, go ahead and join it. And then, yeah, it may be a long slog, but maybe you focus on local races and stuff like that instead of always fielding these national candidates and dissipating all your energies. Focus on local races that are winnable and go from there. So first of all, did you ever spend any time in the Libertarian Party?
No, not as a member. I will say that, I became a part of the Liberty movement in 2012 because of Ron Paul. And after the RNC had, forced him out, I did support Johnson. And at the time, more so because I thought that this was just the only other option left to kind of stick it to him. I didn't necessarily think Johnson was the most. Could see that he wasn't a Ron Paul, but he was still pretty good. I would say that this past election, Weld was definitely the worst of the two, but even Johnson slipped a little more so in regards to being principled and, to his defense, trying to pull people from both sides of the party or both parties that were upset. So he kind of watered his message down to reach them, which, it's politics. I kind of get it. But in a short answer, no, I've never been an LP member. I do have friends in the LP. Again, as I stated earlier, I was at the last national convention here in Orlando. I'm not afraid to go to Libertarian Party meetings. I have friends in the party, and to their success too, even in Palm Beach County, Libertarians have gotten elected at the local level. I'm not sure if this is true or not. If LP members have ever been elected with their party name on the ballot, but I do know that in nonpartisan races, they have had some success. So I wish it to them. I don't think that being a Libertarian Party member is wrong. I just think it's most feasible to be a Republican. I'm not sacrificing my principles by doing it. I have a chance of success. But I think the most important issue that kind of divides us is really just the open primary or closed primary status for states. I think when you really get down to it, that's really the only thing keeping libertarians from, voting for good candidates or not. And when that line is, crossed out in an open primary, I don't really see what the issue is to begin with. I know Republicans are sworn by oath to only vote for Republicans or vote for other, they can't vote for other party members, which I've not done. And I don't really plan on doing. Would never vote for a Democrat, and I yet to find myself in a position where an LP member is on the ballot. Actually, that's not true. There was a Senate race this past election, but I did not vote for the Libertarian, and I did not vote for Marco Rubio. I unfortunately had to sit out the presidential election and the Senate election in Florida. I could not find myself voting for either candidate.
I remember seeing Peter Schiff speaking at some Libertarian Party event. It might have been in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked that he got up in front of them and said, all these efforts you're putting in here are just pointless. You should all quit this and go join the Republican Party. That was his, and I thought, I think I would have told them that was what I was going to say before I got there.
Yeah, I think it's not.
Are you sure you want to invite me? Are you sure you want to invite me after all, now that you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Peter at a personal level, but that does seem a little rude to say the least, maybe. But again, I don't really have the same qualms that some people have, and I hate the Libertarian Party because they always lose, or whatever these reasons are, or hate the Republican Party because of the neocons. I mean, as a liberty movement, it's okay to disperse. The fact that there are two different big factions of libertarians, I think that's actually a good thing in the long run. I don't view it as a problem, though I would wish libertarians would kind of group together to one side. I think it would be beneficial to have them as Republicans. We'd be a bigger driving force than we've had. I mean, look at 2008 and 2012. If we had built on that momentum, who knows where we would be today? It's kind of yet to be told, but that's why I would encourage libertarians to register Republican, or at least if you're not ready to do that, at least consider joining the RLC. Again, we're a nonprofit organization. You're not officially part of the Republican Party, but that is our goal as the libertarian wing and the conscience of the Republican Party.
All right, let me interrupt our discussion to ask you to tell us about the event you have coming up the end of May 2017, because turns out I'm also speaking at it, along with my friend Michael Bolden, which is a pleasant surprise. The guy flies into Orlando, doesn't even tell me he's coming. I'm going to smack him around. So tell me about what is the point of that event? When is it? What are the details?
So every year, the RLC, a national convention. Last one we had was in Nashua, New Hampshire. It was a great success. We had Rand Paul and Teddy Cruz come out, and quite a few other people. Steve Lonigan was a guest, Grover Norquist. But this time we're meeting in Orlando. So it's hosted by my state chapter here in Florida. We're having, for the state chapter, we're also having our state convention that Friday, which is the 26th. But the 27th is our national convention. We'll have Congressman Ted Yoho as a breakfast speaker, Cliff Maloney from Young Americans for Liberty, the president, and Michael Bolden of the 10th Amendment Center for lunch, and then Tom for dinner as our keynote speaker with, I think, Lawrence Spivak, who's known as being the free market warrior. We'll have a bunch of different panel discussions, but I do hope people come out. I think we may have another guest speaker, but that's yet to be announced. But I think the key is to rendezvous with libertarian Republicans and our allies, even at big events like CPAC or with the RNC. It's kind of difficult to stay with your people and network with like-minded individuals as opposed to just kind of being in the mess of things, which isn't necessarily bad. But this is a very centered and focused convention. And it's at the Rosen Center in Orlando. Can't be beat.
All right, I will post the details of that event at tomwoods.com/904. Do you guys do any advocacy for particular policies or just candidates?
We do. The last cycle, we had a legislative agenda, which I believe is available on our website. I think included about 10 bills at the federal level. At the state level, at least in Florida, we've always had a legislative agenda. In February, we got back from our 8th annual trip to Tallahassee, where we lobbied the legislature for liberty. I think there are two policy issues, though, that we kind of, or at least one, we refuse to kind of take a stand for, though, but we'll take a side on any other issue. It's just abortion. We are not a pro-life or a pro-choice organization. We don't advocate for either of the issue, and not to say that one is right or wrong. I'm a pro-life libertarian, but as the organization is concerned, that is the only thing we really stay out of. And we're not a religious organization as well, but we do obviously support religious liberty.
I myself more or less withdrew from most political stuff after the second Ron Paul campaign. I thought, I'm not morally opposed to people who are involved in politics. I don't think there's any reason to be morally opposed to it. If you're just trying to limit the burdens on other people, that sounds like an honorable thing to me.
Yeah.
It's just not something I want to do, because I feel like, well, you're always going to need people doing the kind of thing I do anyway, so I might as well just focus on that because I enjoy doing it more. But even if you guys accomplish nothing else, to me, supporting people, like especially Walter Jones, people who are on that side of the aisle and yet who are willing to speak out against a lot of military intervention, that alone makes the whole thing worthwhile, because it makes people's heads explode. It lets people know that such a position exists, that you don't have to be bottle throwing radicals at Berkeley to be against war. And it's like these people have forgotten there are wars going on because they seem to have absolutely zero interest in any of them. But that is a very, very valuable thing. And in that way, you are carrying on the tradition of Ron Paul. Now, at the same time, I would say that with my limited experience with some people at the RLC, I would say there's one person in particular I know who's very, very outspoken and who is very critical of Ron Paul and was more or less a supporter of Rudy Giuliani. And so, I maybe I'll tell you off the air who I'm talking about, but that I would have no interest in an organization like that because an organization like that is called the Republican Party. Why would I need to join the RLC to advocate for Rudy Giuliani and military intervention?
Yes. I mean, as far as I'm aware, and maybe at the personal level, this person was making these comments, but I don't think the RLC itself has ever advocated for Rudy Giuliani or any of the continued failed wars in the Middle East or elsewhere, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. I'm not sure the person was endorsing Giuliani so much as saying, I favor reasonable Republicans who have some kind of liberty streak. And the list was just all terrible people. Like, I can't support a crazy wacko like Ron Paul. And it's just, and that was the taste I had of the RLC for years. I thought, okay, well, I know this type already. They're called Republicans. Well, what makes this any different? Yeah,
and again, I'm not sure who this person is. I would like to discuss with you off the air, but the people who founded the RLC are very fervently still libertarian. I think it's kind of unchanged. Again, Tom Walls, he's now the ambassador from Liberland to the United States. Phil Blumel is the president of U.S. Term Limits. I mean, these people have not really changed their opinion. And those are the people who I've been associated with ever since I joined the RLC. We're the founders. So I'm sorry you've had this taste in your mouth and kind of this questionability of the RLC. But this is news to me.
Well, good. Well, look, I mean, you were able to come here and clear the air, and I appreciate that. And I will say this, that I know this may sound a little bit self-important, but I don't mean it that way. The fact that they would invite me to speak, I take as speaking well of the RLC. And I know people who haven't listened much might think, oh my gosh, what kind of a big-headed jerk is this? But what I mean is what I represent. I'm pretty uncompromising on all these sorts of liberty issues, and so I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in the fact that I was invited to speak there, or that they would want Michael Bolden, which I find very interesting. But yet I haven't yet asked what the heck it is they want me to talk about, so I guess I should probably look into that. I don't suppose you know off the top of your head, but I don't think they would say, just come on in and say what you want to say. There's probably some topic.
I mean, to some degree, I think you're definitely open to speak about what you want. I don't think anyone expects you to come in shaming the RLC.
No,
certainly, yeah. But I do think that you are pretty open to speak about what you'd like. I think the biggest thing that the RLC is in need of, because again, keep in mind, we've been trudging along since '91, and being a libertarian Republican, as many know, can be disheartening. I think we need a pep talk. So you're more than welcome to inquire more with other RLC members. But speaking for myself, I think that that is definitely kind of what's most needed, and also to kind of dissolve some qualms with the Libertarian Party, because though maybe some people aren't as outspoken about the schism between us, but I don't see it as such, and I wish that more people didn't as well, because I don't hate the Libertarian Party. We need to kind of dissolve the issues we have with each other, though. And not that, you're coming on to be Dr. Phil, but it would be nice to hear some unity from you as well, as opposed to something divisive, which we're used to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm good at both. It's fine. Sometimes I am the crowd pleaser. Sometimes they bring me on, but if I do something crowd pleasing, it's always educational. Like when I went to the GOP, I went to the Lincoln Day dinner, I think it was, the Montana GOP, and everybody was there. I mean, gubernatorial candidates, the senators, everybody was there. and I gave a rip-roaring speech that the grassroots would love, but that had, let's say, some of the politicians squirming a bit. I just went through all these areas that supposedly government's indispensable, and where would we be? And we'd all be dead, and our kids would be dead, and they'd all be working in a coal mine and all that. And I just went through point by point by point by point. And everybody absolutely loved it. But it was just, I was told later that the elected officials were all squirming, I think because they didn't want to be associated with what I was saying. But all I'm saying is what it is that they're supposed to believe anyway. Yeah. So I'm not going to reproach myself for that. Yeah. And it made it onto C-SPAN, and I got great feedback from that. So even when I do a crowd-pleasing thing, it pleases the right crowd. I'll just put it that way. It doesn't please every conceivable crowd.
Yeah. Well, I would, still appreciate your honesty when you speak. I don't think anyone there would be offended by any means. And
no.
But also, too, I may be, I can't speak for everyone, but I would say to some of the RLC members who took the shot at supporting Trump, I think at this point in time, after his 100 days, that support isn't there as much as it was. So, not that people need to be corrected or something, but I think that people are, hungry for liberty. In a sense, voters were duped to some degree. I mean, sure, some go along with, his plans right now, but I know some Libertarian Republicans that have kind of really been let down, and, we're hungry for liberty. We need it.
All right. Well, the speech is writing itself now in my own mind as we're sitting here talking. How can people find out more about the Republican Liberty Caucus?
If you go on to rlc.org, again, rlc.org, and on the homepage on the left, you'll see a link to the convention.
Okay, great. So they can find out about the event there. They can find out about the whole organization there.
Yeah.
I'll link to that also at tomwoods.com/904.
Thank you.
Austin, best of luck, and looking forward to seeing you later this month.
Yes, me too, Tom. Thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to seeing you too.
Okay, gang, that's going to do it for today. Remember, if you are in Seattle, sign up for the Mises Institute event in Seattle on May 20th. I'll be there. Several other people you will like very much, all of whom have been guests on the show, will be there. Bob and I will be recording a live episode of our weekly podcast, Contra Krugman. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check out the details on my events page at tomwoods.com/events, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Become a smarter libertarian in just 30 minutes a day. Visit tomwoods.com to subscribe to the show for free, and we'll see you next time.